I started weaving when I was a child. I started making potholders when I was in 6th grade and sold them to family and friends to buy a green transistor radio. And then I started making backstrap looms. And I wonder if I wasn't a weaver in a past life, because I just have always had an affinity for weaving. I started my business after I apprenticed with a professional weaver for several years. So that was about 20 years ago. Lace Tree Weaving is the name of my company, and the name Lace Tree actually came from some trees that were outside the window of a former studio that were coming into leaf, and they look like lace. And at the time I was just starting my business, so it reminded me of new beginnings, and it became the name of my company. I make rag rugs and table rugs, which are table runners, handbags and wall hangings. A rag rug is a traditional rug. A lot of early American rugs were rag rugs, and the rag part is the strips of other fabric that you've turned into another piece of usable, functional art. The first thing that I do when I'm weaving is to choose the fabrics for the piece, and I'll usually have piles of fabric here and there, putting together colors and thinking of the design. Then I'll strip the fabrics, take the yardage and cut it into a little bit less than an inch wide strip, and sort the fabrics. I'll be sure to have enough of each color for the whole piece. The process of weaving starts with putting warp threads on a loom, which are the horizontal strings that you're eventually going to weave into. That process usually takes me about anywhere from several hours to a whole day, depending on the project that I'm working on. After the warp is wound onto the back of the loom, then I have to tie each of those strings onto the warp that I had just finished. So that could be up to 700 or more knots, so that takes a while. After the warp is on the loom, then I'll take strips of fabric or yarn or cotton string and run it back and forth horizontally through the warp threads, and after I put a thread through, then I'll switch the warp so that it's interlocking going the other direction, and I'll lay in another piece and then have to pound it in. So what you're essentially doing is interlocking a lot of different threads together to make a piece of cloth or a rug. My earlier work was very subdued and earthy, and a few years ago I was asked to do a custom piece with some very bright, bold colors, and it shot me off into another direction, and I started using really bold, bright colors in some of my work, and I like to use rainbow colors and chakra colors. Chakras are the energy centers in your body, because it helps me express some of my spirituality. Each piece it may be just a traditional stripes and inlays type piece, but I'll find something about it that expresses my spirituality. And the Native American spirituality has affected me a lot, because they're very in touch with the earth and all of nature, and so that really I try to incorporate that into my color choices and designs that I have created. I like to use natural fibers. The wool in particular is very durable. It resists water and dirt, so when you weave with strips of wool fabric, the piece that you have is going to last a long time and it's going to stay nice and clean. I don't ever see myself not weaving. I'll be weaving the rest of my life. It's in my blood. I have a passion for it that I'll never exhaust. I hope my work is pleasing to people's eye, but I like to make something that's very functional into a piece of art. So I'm hoping that people will use the pieces, but also enjoy looking at them while they're using them.